That's one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in my fucking life, I swear to God. I don't think I'm gonna cross over the connecting bridge to Gatineau today. Yeah, hell no, absolutely not. Yeah, not in one city. Well, you're right. Both better and worse ways. But, nonetheless. Bridge from Ottawa to Gatineau and vice versa if you're coming from the Quebec side. So, let's go. Well, for those of you wondering, yes, I have been dragging this metal wagon all the way from Orleans to the Byward Market area. It has taken me, well, it took me 3 days to reach the edge of the market where I've been staying in the tent, camped out by what was the Saudi Arabian embassy and the Emirati embassy and the CSIS External Affairs building for the past 2.5 days now, because you saw the clips from earlier, and well, it was interesting enough, but something else interesting just happened yesterday. That being, I assessed, examined, and tried my best to do what I can to, or what I could to treat my first patient as, well, being a self-proclaimed medic. So what happened? I'll explain. So, down. Thank you, alarm, for disrupting the footage. Anyway, I hope you can hear me well over the wind. Coming from, well, this overpass behind me, entering down on, I think it's called Dalhouse Street, or Dalhouse, no, I think it's Dalhouse, and at the intersection of Dalhouse and Barrier Street, there's a small business coffee shop, cafe, called Ideal Coffee. Very nice place. Overall, very nice owners. I spoke to them. But, yesterday, I had to use the washroom, and I was also going to brush up just with my hygienics in their washroom, well, because I had to go to the washroom, and also brush my teeth and do all the rest. So I abandoned my campsite for a short while. Oh no, sorry, my mistake. Confusing it with the day before. Yesterday I packed up my things from my campsite, brought them over to the coffee shop and all of this, and set it outside, went in and got something to eat, and I ordered a mocha coffee. Oh yes, side note, I've gotten back into drinking coffee. It's been nearly 4 years since I overdosed on caffeine in 2020. Wow. The anniversary of my overdose will literally be coming up on April 16th. But it's been long enough time, and it seems from what I've tested and my consumption of caffeine, my body is able to handle it again. So, good on that. Anyway, back to the story. I was sitting in there charging my phone and looking over the diagrams I had made for my theories, some of them, and also continuing to type away at my theories. Which, another side note, when I got close to the Rideau Center in the downtown area, I sent off what I could of the printed theories to a few specialists so far, those being, who have influenced my theories, Professor Noam Chomsky, Dr. Gabor Mati, Professor Mahmoud Mamdani, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, my former pediatric neurologist, Dr. Luigi Castagna, and my former psychiatrist, Dr. Teresa Lim. And this is hypocritical of me. I would have preferred to send this one to a specific person at said post-secondary school, but I didn't know anyone there, so, well, oh well, I just addressed it to the deanship. I shipped it off to the psychology department of York University in Toronto. So, there's that. Anyway, back to the story again. Looking over those, typing away, but then about maybe an hour or so into my stay there, a person comes hobbling in agony. They were complaining about severe pain in their feet, that they could barely walk. They were hobbling around, having very obvious, balance problems because of it. Not, from after my examination, not ataxic issues caused by any sort of neurological, anything wrong with the cerebellum or anything, or their spinal cord, just because of the pain in their feet. But, they were asking the owners to please call an ambulance for them, to call 911, which they did, but they said, I don't know what I'm going to tell them because, you're not giving me much information, which I will explain more in a sec. So, the owners called 911, and they sent out, the route for the ambulance, but they said that the system was backed up because of high call volumes, and because Canada and the world is facing a healthcare worker crisis because of mass spread of hedonism and, lack of empathy for people. I digress. There was a backup in the system. And the person in question hobbled outside, and another person went to console them because they were in a lot of agony and wincing and cringing and moaning in distress. And I heard this, and I decided I'm going to go over and actually see what's wrong. So I took over for the person who was trying to console them. I think the person who was in pain was actually asking them to please stay with them. They didn't want to be left alone, and the other person just wanted to go in and eat. So I just told them, you can go in and eat, and I will sit with this person and talk with them. So I did. I told them my name was Cam, and I asked for their name. We'll refer to them as DS. So I spoke with DS a bit. I asked, where's the pain coming from? And they were having some dysarthric issues, slurred speech, and also what appeared to be some cognitive issues in terms of, being able to actually keep a coherent thought process in the moment. And they seemed to have been, I couldn't exactly tell, they might have been falling in and out of consciousness, or they might have been, very tired and just getting somewhat dreary and just becoming a bit unresponsive. So when I was able to get information out of them, they said they were having it was incredible, burningly intensive pain within their feet, and they were saying their legs, but that didn't end up being the case for all of their, their lower torso. So I pulled out my medical equipment, my stethoscope, my light pens, put on some gloves and a mask, and I asked if it was alright to examine them and see if I could be of any help, and they gave consent. And I felt up their legs, and I told them, if it hurts, tell me and I will stop. I just want to see where exactly the pain is localized to. And I pushed on their kneecaps, pushed on their calves, and all the muscle tissue along their legs, and asked if it hurt, and they just said no, not really there. But then when I got to the soles of their feet, pushed on it even somewhat just slightly, they were in complete pain and wanted me to stop, so I immediately stopped, and able to localize the pain just to the soles of their feet. So I asked for some general information from them as I was, giving an examination. Asked for their name, referring to them as DS. And then I asked if, because of the dysarthric issues and also because of the disrupt to, what seemed to be, they were obviously in psychological distress because of the pain and also the bit of cognitive issues in terms of the thought process in the moment. I asked if they were on any high amounts of any substance at the moment, or had last taken any sort of substance, and they claimed that all they were on was marijuana. But given their behavior, that might not have been the case. I don't doubt that they were, I believe them obviously that they were on marijuana in that regard, but in terms of how they were acting, obviously it could be, obviously there could be a few different reasons why they were having issues cognitively, but certain other drugs, obviously in high doses and in the presence of addiction, not guaranteed to, but in many high doses, it can cause, obviously, dysarthria, neurological problems in terms of, spatial orientation and coordination, and, as well as cognitive disrupt. Specifically, I suspect that this person was either on, along with marijuana, either heroin or methamphetamine, because weed alone, even in high doses, from what I've researched of it, it most likely would not cause the issues, the psychological and cognitive issues they were having, and dysarthria, so that's highly unlikely. But anyway, so they claim that they were only on weed, and as I was talking with them, they also were complaining that they were extremely cold, that they were having chills. Now that could potentially because of the substance, whatever substances they were on, or maybe, because they appeared to be, seemingly homeless and on the streets. They might have been, it's been freezing the last few days, so it might just be it might have been a reaction to the freezing temperatures. It wasn't cold, severely cold that particular morning, at that time, but anyway, they were complaining of the cold, so I gave them my jacket and just wrapped it around them. I was going to give them my blanket, but that didn't end up happening. And after a few more moments of talking, I asked, can I examine your feet? Can I take off your socks just to see if there's any issue with it on the surface level of the skin? And they said that they'd like to go inside to actually do that. So I went in and asked the store owner, can they please come inside? And they said yes, absolutely. So I helped them because they were hobbling, I brought what stuff I could that they had into the back of the restaurant, in the dining area with the customers all there. And they sat on a chair. They were, again, still in incredible agony. And I began removing their socks. I told them, obviously, if it hurts, just tell me and I will stop. And I was able to get one of their socks off completely. They were wearing theirs. And I used my light pen just to examine the soles of their feet. There was no apparent deterioration of the epidermis. any kind, any sort of sores or lesioning on it, or even really bruising. There was a little bit of what looked to be jaundice coloration, but that can be normal for many reasons. Well, not normal, that's common for many people. I have that as well. It can occur because just so much as walking, from what I know, constantly. But at the top half of the soles of their feet, there was some purplish discoloration of the skin and what appeared to be callousing, not blistering, but just calluses forming at the top. And on their big toe, it appeared to be a potential fungal infection of the nail, but it wasn't. For me to properly know if it was a fungal infection, it would have had to be very, very severe, so I didn't make a complete judgment of whether it was or wasn't. It was just more sort of yellowish-brown coloring of the nail, so I didn't say, when the paramedics arrived, I didn't say whether it was or wasn't a fungal infection, because I didn't fully know, but it could have been. So there was no specific visible sores of any kind or damage to the actual surface layer of skin on the foot or even on the tops of their foot. And so it very much, from feeling around it further, that the pain was nerve related, that it was radiating from just solely the nerves, a reaction to, well, their peripheral nervous system within the soles of their feet. And so then I asked them, can you try and rotate your ankle for me, just to see if you have, well, mobility in the ankle. They had well enough mobility. And then I asked them to try curling their toes, but they didn't really respond to that, so we just left it at that. Then I brought out my stethoscope I asked if I could just get a read on their pulse, their heart rate, and they weren't really responsive to me if they weren't responsive to whether they wanted me to do it to their chest or examine their chest with my stethoscope or not, so I ended up just, with their consent obviously, examining their wrists for a pulse. It didn't really work because, well, there was noise in the cafe, and, well, they're moving around a bit and shaking, so I couldn't really get a proper read of their heart rate from their wrist, so that wasn't really effective. But then I asked if they could look at my light pen with their eyes, just to examine their vision, just to see if there was any issues with, well, their eyeballs or their visual reactions. And there was somewhat. I asked them with the light on to just follow the light with their eyes, and they were squinting somewhat. And I don't know if it was just because they were squinting or maybe it was actually this, but it seemed like they may have had been experiencing optic apraxia, which is where the nerves that connect the, well, mobility of the eyeballs to the midbrain and the brain stem, which operates the rotation of the eyes, was disrupted, because it's either where you have a slowed reaction in terms of moving up, down, sideways, all around, like that, or just completely no ability at moving the eyeballs in the slightest. Now, again, that could have been optic apraxia, or it could have been that they were very tired, and because they were squinting, I couldn't exactly tell in terms of their actual pupils if they were dilating from the light or not. But anyway, I then asked just to see, instead of the light, if they could just follow the actual pen itself, but same result. So then I looked inside their mouth. They opened up and went, and their, well, oral health was actually incredibly well. There was no discoloration in the back of the throat. It was perfectly pink, and their palate seemed shape-wise to be fine enough from what I know of, well, in terms of dental health. But nothing looked out of the ordinary from what I could tell there. And then I tried to do an audiological test where I I snapped around different sides of their cranium and asked, okay, can you hear this? Can you hear this from over here? But they weren't very responsive to that, so I don't really know if they heard it. I know they could hear me, obviously, at points, because they were giving consent to what I was doing and responding at points, but it was hard to determine. So, anyway, they were then begging me to please do something like it for the pain, please, and they were thinking that because of the pain that their feet were going to fall off or come off, which I can understand the reaction to, well, severe pain. Obviously, that's medically impossible in that regard, even if the pain is that extreme, for it to just, well, your feet, obviously, to the bones to break apart and muscle tissue to tear away for no reason. Well, anyway, but they were in severe pain, and there was Wi-Fi in the cafe, so I told them, okay, I have over-the-counter painkillers, ibuprofen and acetaminophen with me, and I'm going to look up, just because I couldn't obviously get a detailed answer. I tried asking them when was the last time, because they told me that they were on marijuana. I asked them when was the last time, like, that you used weed. Was it within the last 24 hours, last 18 hours, 10 hours? Do you have a rough estimate? They obviously didn't know, so I was going to look up, in case it was still in their system, if it would have been fine enough for me to actually give them one painkiller or two to actually ease the intensive pain, even if marijuana was still in their system. But from what I looked up, obviously that wasn't the case. Apparently there could be some sort of irritative reaction or allergic reaction, potentially with most over-the-counter painkillers and high amounts of marijuana, or just even general amounts of marijuana in someone's system. And to further confirm that, I called Telehealth Ontario, which, if you're international and watching this, for Ontario, and there are many other provinces, and I think even the territories have their own version of them. It's just a call center that takes general health information if you can't get a hold of, or it's ideally, it doesn't obviously work many times at points, but it's meant to just give general nursing information to anyone who can't really get a hold of 911 immediately, or can't get a hold of a general practitioner, to just give any sort of health information similar to the province of Ontario in Canada, the Toxology Center. But anyway, well, that's for poisoning. But I called them, eventually got a hold of a representative nurse, or a registered nurse, and I asked them for information regarding this patient, if it would be alright to give them these over-the-counter painkillers to ease the severe agony, even though the marijuana might potentially still be in their system. And they also confirmed to me, no, that would not be a good idea, because it could also cause much issue with their respiratory function. So it can cause some amount of shortness of breath, or even there's been some reports, I guess, of seizing of, well, breath in your autonomic or automatic function in that regard. So once that was all said and done, I thanked the nurse, obviously, and I told DS that unfortunately I'm not going to give you these painkillers at the moment, because I don't know when you last took it, and so I don't want to I don't want to obviously put you in any sort of danger with the drug use, so I'm not going to give it to you. And obviously they were, well, upset about that, and they were in distress. But after that, I asked the owners when, because by this point it had been an hour and 5 minutes or so, and the paramedics that were initially called hadn't showed up still, because they were backed up with calls. So I asked the store owners if the dispatchers gave them a rough estimate as to when they may arrive, and they said, no, we don't know at the moment. And so I ended up calling 911 myself again, and told them that they initially dispatched some paramedics to our location at this place called Ideal Coffee in Byward Market, and I asked well, is there any information as to when they may arrive here? And the operator was very nice, but they were doing the thing just to reassure me that, oh, well, our system is backed up, but we assure you they are on their way. They will be there as soon as possible. Basically just kindly trying to say, yeah, we don't know and we can't fully say. So it wasn't much help. So after that, I just tried asking about them, the general, life, about just a bit about them, but they weren't, DS wasn't responsive to that really. When I was initially on the call with telehealth for some information, I tried asking them, and even the paramedics tried asking them when they eventually arrived about DS's age or their date of birth. I wasn't able to get that out of them. I had to go off of rough estimate just from their physical appearance and aging process. They roughly look to be late 20s, early 30s, roughly. And they didn't tell me their physiological gender and or their gender identity. So I could go off of, they appeared expression-wise in terms of gender to be more masculine presenting. In terms of physiological gender, I didn't know that. Obviously, I didn't examine their genitalia, and I also don't know the ins and outs of their reproductive and chromosomal function or hormones. So I couldn't fully answer that, but I just went and asked. I said, subject appears to be male. But anyway, so thankfully, during my still examining them and also getting them in, I guess they got up and lied down in a booth that had a customer at it, but they didn't mind. They were just working and they understood the severity of the situation. But got them comfortable, and they were still using my coat. They were using it as a blanket, and I tried to get their other sock off, but I only got one of them off. And thankfully, after an hour and 10 minutes after initially being called, the paramedics did arrive. I went out to greet them and explained the situation to them and gave them a complete overview. Told them about the discoloration of the foot. They came in complaining about severe pain in their feet. It didn't appear to be any sort of deterioration or sores on the actual feet themselves. The pain is localized to their actual soles. I told them that's, the purplish discoloration, no pain in the rest of their legs or any other extremities, it seems. But I did make it aware, and why I do suspect that they were also potentially on either heroin or meth is because they did have what appeared to be some formations of lesions or some amount of soring on other parts of their skin on their hands and the back of their neck, and even on their skin on their skull. So that could have been an indication of heavier drug use. But gave them the overview. I told them I couldn't get a complete read of their heart rate. And explained to them everything that I had, observed. And they thanked me for that profusely. And then we were able to get them outside, and DS got on a stretcher, and they held them there in the ambulance for a bit, and then took them away. And then I went back inside to just relax for a minute, and the owners thanked me profusely for what I did, and DS themselves thanked me again profusely for helping them. They were incredibly grateful. The paramedics were incredibly grateful. The patient was incredibly grateful, and the store owners were incredibly grateful. And I'm happy that I was able to help in whatever way possible. And I'm glad that I hope that DS was able to be treated for whatever was actually causing the pain, because I did not diagnose or prognose anything because I didn't fully know what was causing the pain. And then eventually I left, went back to the campsite that's by the embassies over by this overpass for the night. This morning I went back to the coffee shop and they were like, "Hey, it's you," and I was like, "Hi, how's it going?" And they thanked me for yesterday and they gave me coffee on the house because I was going to order one, and I was like, "Oh, thank you." And I talked with the owner for a minute, and then I said thank you and then goodbye. And then I texted some of my friends about it back in Toronto last night. And, well, you'd think after doing that and the beneficial outcome that it had for the whole scenario, you think after doing that, that many people would probably see that as a helpful thing, as something actually that went well, that was great benefactor for the person and all involved. But no, I actually got into a fight with a very idiotic person, or at the very least, whatever their thought process for this. Me saying, "Hey, I just assessed my first patient today," and explaining the scenario. Their thought process was completely moronic to, I don't know what the fuck they were thinking. But I'll explain that in a minute, but let me get up ways a bit on the bridge, because my hands are freezing. At the borderline. It's windy. Okay, so got up a bit more. So, anyway, about my argument with this person. I tell them that I just assessed my first patient today. They text back saying, "Cam, you're going to get someone killed." And then I text back, "Excuse me?" And then they say, "You're not a doctor." And then I text back, "Tell that to the paramedics, the patient who is in cringing agony, and the store owners who are all incredibly thankful for my help that I provided. Go tell that to them. And then come back and tell me that I'm going to get someone killed." And they just said, "Well, that's all well and good, but nothing's stopping you from misdiagnosing someone." Firstly, and I should have responded to them with this, yeah. And nothing's stopping a licensed physician from misdiagnosing someone at all. And no, despite the popular narrative, physicians within the medical and psychiatric world that are certified and have gone through years of schooling misdiagnose and misprognose patients constantly 24/7 all the time. Yeah, it's a common occurrence. Go to any ER doctor, and I guarantee you within the span of just 2 hours, you'll find someone being probably mistreated and also given a poor diagnosis or poor evaluation in the shitty healthcare system that Canada has and a multitude of countries around the world have. So yeah, a licensed practitioner can and does constantly misdiagnose people. So, yeah, I could have, but here's the thing. I actually then texted back misdiagnosed. Actually, I didn't diagnose them with anything. I didn't even prognose them. Because I didn't think I could. If I had known or had an idea of what was causing the pain, then yes, I would have prognosed them and if possible diagnosed them. But I didn't. I examined them, and I was still examining them, trying to determine what could be the problem from the knowledge that I had whilst waiting for the paramedics, but I was never able to figure it out, so I didn't bloody well diagnose them or give them a prognosis. I had no clue what was causing the pain, other than I knew that it was radiating from their feet area, from the soles of their feet, and it was definitely some amount of neurological related pain, or maybe even muscular pain radiating, well, neuromuscular pain radiating from the area, because there was no apparent, well, deterioration on the skin. The discoloration might have played a part in it, but I don't know. So I didn't diagnose or prognose them. And anyway, I got into a spat with this person after saying this about, I don't believe, obviously, anymore in any sort of regulated systems. And that includes healthcare. Now, do I still use it? Yeah, because unfortunately there is a small amount of competent doctors and physicians who obviously have careers in that field and are at the hospitals and will be able to help in some way. But they then come back to me with, you can't rely on random people to just say that they know what they're doing in medicine and help. Yeah, I'm going to tell you this right now, and I said this to them. Someone being able to prove that they know what they're talking about, as I clearly now have done, not just from my own research, being self-taught in this regard, but from this now first experience, yeah, went well. So that's called proving it. That's actually called displaying your knowledge and putting it into effect in some regard. That's called demonstration. And they've gone to this bona fide, and as I've discussed in my scientific proposal videos, because they're clearly indoctrinated to a certain belief, about how they thought years of medical advancements have helped so much, and that it's far less likely for mishaps to happen in this regulated system of years of schooling in medicine and getting a doctorate. That's complete bullshit. Bona fide bullshit. Absolutely wrong. 100% wrong. As I said, misdiagnoses happen all the time, and very terrible and idiotic doctors pass through that system constantly. The systems that we have to actually hopefully mitigate idiotic people getting into medical and psychiatric practice. It happens all the time. They weasel their way through, either pay off the actual schools to just, well, give them more of a passing grade or some amount of better credits or credentials, as well as they just do what they can for the actual testing and examinations when they're in residency, and then, well, they go out into the actual world and they're complete idiots and incompetent in every regard. And as to how they actually treat patients, both like just on a psychological basis of from human to human, and also in terms of physiological diagnoses and actual examinations and psychological evaluations, they're complete idiots. These are certain people who get through the actual system, and it's many, despite what people think. So, and I also told them, someone demonstrating that they have knowledge in, these practices is not some random guy who just says that they know medicine. Yeah, I didn't claim to just be some random guy who knows medicine and whatever. I went up, I evaluated, and I asked them, do you mind if I actually examine you? I didn't step up and be like, I'm a doctor, I know, which actually, being a medic, disqualifies me as a medical, well, technically some form of practitioner, as far as I'm concerned, not licensed, but I didn't stand up and proclaim, hey, I am a medical expert. I am completely versed to know absolutely everything that I am doing right here and now. Step aside, common peasants. I will save this man. No. I literally asked them, do you mind if I examine you? I would like to help you. I would like to try and see if I can be of any assistance. I asked for their consent. I made sure that if I was hurting them, to stop immediately. And I completely asked for their consent on everything. And stuff that they didn't give me consent to do, I didn't do. And I said that I didn't know certain things, as I literally just explained that I was not able to diagnose or prognose them. If I thought that I had an idea of what was causing the issue, I would have, but I didn't. Oh, and I also didn't go ahead and give them pain medication. Because from what I looked up, which I bothered to look up and also get further information from other medical professionals within the telehealth, well, from the telehealth line, that mixing it with potentially, if the marijuana was still in their system, that it could be highly dangerous, especially for the respiratory function. So, I didn't do that, and I told DS, I'm sorry, I cannot give you, or I'm not going to give you the pain medication because I don't want to potentially induce a problem. So I didn't. So there you go. And we got into a spat about how medical technology is so much more advanced now. Bullshit, it isn't. People are under this lie and there's this belief that modern medicine, in terms of technological advancement, is so much better than it was millennia ago. Some of it, yes, in terms of the treatment, yes, it's better enough. But no one actually bothers to look at what causes the fucking problems in the first place. We know, and I said this to them, that psychological and physiological diseases and illnesses have been on the rise rampantly for centuries now. Rapidly. It's getting worse. It's getting far worse. It rises and rises and rises, and it's because of societal issues causing interpersonal problems. It's because of that. Environmental trauma and pollutants and issues all around. That's why. And we also then got into, as I said, an argument about residency. I said, as far as I'm concerned, as of right now, residency, for the most part, is also very, very flawed in terms of schooling for medical and psychiatric work. Most of it, at least for the first few months to couple of years, is merely observation and note-taking in many countries of the actual, of a head teacher, or if you're a surgeon going into surgery, examining what the actual head doctor is doing. The head, professor, doctor, the scholar, the teacher, examining it, watching and observing, note-taking and amounts of tests, and then going into actual hands-on work, which even then, as far as I'm concerned, is in a controlled environment by the schools. Even if you are actually operating on a patient coming in from a hospital, there is still quite an amount of controlled environment, which is borderline in some form simulated, I would call it. Some form. And as far as I'm concerned, any competent doctor who has had experience in the field once they've gotten out of medical and psychiatric schooling will tell you that the only actual genuinely good beneficial learning experience is being out in the field firsthand and experiencing things with patients on an individual basis in an uncontrolled, unsimulated environment where anything can happen. A variety of things that do not pan out as they teach you in medical school happen, or in psychological schooling. Variety. So, debunked that as well. And then they brought up an example of, would you trust a pilot who just said, someone who just said, I know how to fly, therefore I'm a certified pilot. And I told them, if they have demonstrated that they have researched aerodynamics and have had experience flying, or they have researched it and have shown that on their first few attempts at flying that they were damn good at it, yeah, I would. And also, by the way, I snapped back at them, okay, let me ask you this. The last time that you flew on a plane at an airport or the last time you went to a doctor's appointment, when was the last time that you asked for their credentials? When was the last time that you actually asked the person in the cockpit of the plane, or asked the person who was claiming to be the doctor working in, well, the doctor's coat with the stethoscope, when was the last time you actually asked for their medical certificates, their practice and years of schooling? When was the last time you actually asked the hospital or the airline companies that hire these people, when did you ask about the actual hiring process of said individual? Which, by the way, as I said to them, most of the airline companies and many hospitals that, well, house these even good physicians are highly corrupt. Highly corrupt, and engage in mass capitalist profiteering. So when was the last time you did that? They didn't really give a good answer to me, to my question. Trying to remember right now what the rest of the conversation, how it went. Okay, well then we got on to the point of, well, physical, I'm not talking about psychiatric illnesses, I'm talking about physical illnesses. We have so much better treatments for them. And there's, yes, psychological illnesses are on the rise, but physiological are getting treated way better. No, they aren't. I said again, we know that most physical illnesses in the world are caused by psychiatric illnesses. We know that the issues that are caused by the emotional state force people pretty well to go in these unsafe and very poor conditions in terms of society that cause health problems. And we also know how the psychological state, which is headed by the nervous system, it's a part of the nervous system. As far as I'm concerned, the only metaphysiological part of our physiological state. We know how it affects the actual, well, the neurological system. We know how it has a mass effect as well, where there's much more proof now coming out about its effect on the immune system and how it actually causes certain properties within the immune system to basically attack itself, where a lot of autoimmune disorders come into play. Its effect on the gastrointestinal system in terms of digestive upset, its effect on the cardiovascular system, etc. Oh, and the respiratory system in terms of hyperventilating and things of the sort, and high stress, yada yada yada. We know all of this. We know that mass amounts of that and long exposure to it can cause mass physiological deterioration. It's extreme. So, sorry, one sec. Anyway, we know about all this. Oh, and I also brought up the fact about, in virology, about viruses, viral infections. The only reason that, yes, we do have more vaccines now. We have a lot of vaccines that are highly effective in treating different viral infections. But the only reason that so many viruses are on the rise, have been for the last few decades, is because of the piss-poor labor working conditions of mass industrial manufacturing factories of mega ultra-capitalist corporations that use shitty, quick and cheap ways of maintaining labor, filthy, unclean environments all across the world, in a multitude of different countries, that are incredibly destructive to the workers' health, that are unkept, that are breeding grounds for viral infections, which then make their way into the human population and spread further and further and further. And it's because, well, these companies just want quick mass production to appease consumerist demand. That's why. We know this. In the capitalist system and blatant, well, more subtle, capitalism, as far as I'm concerned, is a branch of fascism, fascist economics. So, anyway. That's why so many viruses have spread, because of these piss-poor working conditions that just fester filth and horrible are horrible health hazards. That's how they fester and spread, how they begin. Like, people are saying, here's a little side note of COVID-19. During the COVID-19 pandemic, when it was in its major upswing, everybody was theorizing that it came from a bat, originally came from a bat. Maybe a bat bit someone. Potentially, sure. Or there's the theory that that the strain escaped from a virological lab in Wuhan, China. That it was a virus that had been found that was being tested on by virologists in the city, and a strain of it got loose into the public. Sure, potentially. But another option is that I would not be surprised at all if COVID-19 was birthed in the fucking piss-poor, the slave labor environments of the fucking manufacturing factories all across capitalist China. All across, especially in Wuhan, in the mass industrial factories where workers are subjugate to barely any livable wage compared to the free market that China is, despite what it claims to be. So, yeah, I would not be surprised, and with the filthy conditions that it's in, barely any actual proper cleaning regimens and actual sanitization for the workers, I would not be surprised if COVID-19 was birthed out of that environment from one of the factories and then got into a strain of, say, well, just some sort of the production line if it was in food, or then whatever environment they were in, it spread to one of the workers, which then, well, spread to the rest of a major portion of the populace within Wuhan, and then to the rest of China, and then internationally to the rest of the world. I would not be surprised if it came from one of the labor factories. I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest. Same with another coronavirus, SARS, back during the, 2002 to 2004 SARS pandemic. I would not be surprised. That also spread from China. I believe it might have initially, the first case has been in Dalian, China, in the northeast of the country, on the, the Dalian Peninsula, the peninsula that the city of Dalian is on. I would not be surprised if from mass, unkept, unsanitary, cheap labor factories that mega corporations, continue to operate to extract mass profit from, to do pair deals with Western corporations, or corporations within the East that are ultra-capitalist as well within the same country, and also lobby for politicians to put in place governmentally laws that will protect their interests and also protect, their business practices. So I would not be surprised in the slightest. Anyway, they then said to me, if you actually think that medical health in terms of technology was far better thousands of years ago that compared to now, it is delusional. And then I step back. It's delusional to believe that otherwise. It's delusional to believe that health issues are not on the rise and that the actual treatments for them right now are overall better. In terms of certain things, yes, are overall better. But in majority, we are in a piss-poor healthcare system that does not work. And we know that so many of these issues are caused both psychologically and physiologically by societal problems. We know that. So it's a delusion to believe otherwise. And it's also subtle racism, by the way, because we know that for thousands of years, multitude of different people groups have collectively survived with shaman doctors, which, by the way, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of the competent medical work and psychiatric work of the modern day, only has evolved out of those practices from indigenous groups across the world, from North American tribes to different African tribes, South America, and gypsy culture as well, different nomadic cultures and gypsy cultures within Central to Eastern Europe. Thousands of years ago, nomadic peoples in the Middle East, and also in terms of, ancient Eastern Asia, and the indigenous ethnicities of Oceania, yada, yada, yada. They did not have any sort of regulated testing, and so-called system-regulated training, for the most part, for their doctors, for their medical practitioners. They relied on people demonstrating their knowledge and being appointed themselves most often, or collectively decided upon. Bonjour. Hello. Decided upon by the tribe itself. They did not have any regulated system. They had to prove what they knew from actual experience and practice. And then if they were training a protege, an apprentice, pass on their knowledge to that. There was, as I've discussed before in the scientific proposals I briefly mentioned, that for centuries human beings lived in pseudo-anarchism and pseudo-communism. We lived in collectivist fashion. Societally, that was sustainable for thousands of years. And in terms of the doctors, well, same thing. They were not appointed through a regulated system. It changed, it evolved, and they demonstrated what they knew. They didn't have any certification of any kind. They didn't get a doctorate. Not anything of the sort. And that's a form of subtle racism as far as I'm concerned. It is. Because those practices worked for thousands of years. We would not have survived, at least in the beneficial fashions that somewhat still remain today, would not be here if it weren't for those thousands of years of medical evolution in that form of anarchistic practice. Or at least in some form, I guess, pre-libertarianism in some way. And then we got on again, and I just said the last thing about it, that I don't care that I don't have a medical license. I don't care, and I've demonstrated that I do know in some fashion how to treat people psychologically, as my specialties as far as I'm concerned are psychology, neurology, and sexology. So that's what I know. And they left it with them getting somehow the last word. I don't care. I said what I needed to say, and I have empathy and sympathy, and I have compassion for this person. They're an idiot. At least what they said was completely idiotic. And I said to them, I hope they reflect on this, well, conversation, and they research for themselves more properly into this issue. And I'll leave it at that for now with them. It is a psychotic belief. Now, I believe there should be a reevaluation of how psychosis is diagnosed and prognosed, but it is, if it is wholeheartedly believed with even disproving facts to it, that medical science is completely advanced, that all the methods of treatment are completely top-notch, and that these societal factors do not cause most of these issues that we face, health-wise, psychologically, and physiologically. It's a delusion to believe otherwise. As I've said, my political agenda, well, my political affiliations align now more with, align with anarcho-communism, social anarchism, anarcho-maximalism, which is basically trying to go to the furthest extent of using the least amount of a set system as possible, which it is impossible, sadly, as of right now in all this. But, well, I have no answer to that. And as well as collectivism, obviously. And also affiliating with Luxembourgism as well, to a degree. I don't give, it's, you know what, I'll talk about that more once I actually get in to Gatineau. So let me get down a ways. A bit more. Alright. I've calmed down a bit, walking all the way across the bridge. And, well, before I continue with what I was talking about, I'm just gonna, well, because my phone is dying, I'm gonna have to charge it. It's because of the colder wind. Get a shot of, well, last shot of Ottawa before I make my way further into the city of Gatineau here. Well, so long, Canadian capital city of Ottawa. You taught me a lot, and I had interesting experiences in you. But time to go. And goodbye, province of Ontario. Maybe one day I'll return to you. Maybe I won't. Only time will tell. So, I wish you well in your systematic and systemic, hopefully your recovery someday, if you can. I don't know. But, well, if I never see you again, both the city and the province, have a wondrous life. What the hell is going on here? Okay, I guess that's not turning. Alright, well. Just on what is Laurier Street, or at the edge of it. This is the furthest eastern point of, well, southeastern Gatineau. The wind is obviously, as you can tell, blowing very rapidly through the corridors of skyscrapers. But anyway, oh, piece of a baguette. How stereotypical. Anyway, calm down a bit more, because I'm, well, as of now, as of my pseudo New Year's resolutions, I'm trying to, I guess, a better way to put it, instead of just, I'm not trying to induce in any way self-actualization, or I'm trying to mitigate it as much as possible, but also trying to remain more stoic on things and practicing the philosophy of stoicism, which I've come to realize I really interpreted or took for granted, and, well, just overall misunderstood. But, it's just, well, that whole conversation just, well, in relation to my internalized aggression, to put it bluntly, well, boiled my blood. Because it's so beyond clear that this individual who I was talking to knows diddly squat about what they're saying. Like, diddly squat. The amount of, well, leaning in that regard, they were showing more of their narcissistic traits, personality-wise. The amount of overconfidence and overcertainty in, well, I really should disable those alarms. Anyway, the over trustworthiness in the systems we have, with the fact that there's provable things that dispute the majority of it, is, well, it's just astonishing how indoctrinated people are to herd mentalities, how psychologically damaged people are because of being trauma bound to these problematic community structures that are designed to benefit the few and the elitists of the world. But, well, yeah, it's sad. It's very, very sad. It's ridiculous beyond belief. Literally, I also told them, if you want the advice of so-called quote-unquote medical professionals who work within the system, the paramedics, when they arrive, they themselves thanked me incredibly for helping, for what I was doing to assess the situation and actually giving them a full rundown and overview of what history I could take of the patient, of DS, and for trying to assist them as I could with what knowledge I had. They thanked me for that. They didn't ask for my medical license. They didn't ask for a certificate. They didn't ask my age, how old I was to be doing this. They didn't ask once. Not once. And they weren't over exotifying or over sensationalizing the whole issue. They weren't like, oh my god, you're amazing, you're so fantastic at what you're doing, you're a lifesaver. No. They were not doing that either. They simply were like, wow, thank you very much for what you did here. It was very great, thank you. Does the patient have this and that, what they were doing before? And then I answered their questions as best I could, gave them more information, and like, okay, we're going to take them to a nearby hospital and see if we can get them checked out of the ER and figure out what's going on. Thank you. And I said, you're welcome, and thank you for what you're doing here. When they eventually showed up an hour and 10 minutes after the initial call. So, it was not anything over dramatic, and it was not something detrimental. They weren't mad in the slightest. They weren't infuriated that I was doing their jobs for them. Not at all. So, you want to hear it from medical professionals? There you go. It's so incredible, and I know this for a fact because people talk about so many people who claim to be anarchists and libertarians. It's so beyond extremely hypocritical. They'll be all giddy and excited to bash the systems justly, fairly and justly and rightfully criticize and dismantle philosophically, in terms of examination, ideologically, the systems that are in place, societally, absolutely, 100% righteously, as far as I'm concerned. But then they will not make any attempt to go as far away from the system as possible. They won't. They will be beyond hypocrites to their own ideologies. And as I believe I've said before, that doesn't make the idea to anyone on the opposing side of the political spectrum who says, see, they're all hypocrites, so the current system works fine. They're all just complainers, yada, yada, yada. No, you people are doing the exact same thing. You're literally complaining about us complaining. And also, no, that doesn't make the ideology wrong. That just makes all of us Again, just sadly hypocrites to it. But so many people are just so, well, they're false in terms of their beliefs. Or they have major cognitive dissonances because they don't actually, okay, it's going to sound hypocritical of me, but I don't, obviously, as of right now, as far as I'm concerned, we're all major hypocrites. We are. This includes myself. I'm not exempt from this. We still function in these systems, and sadly, even in the smallest of ways, even in terms of anarcho-maximalism, we're still putting some amount of, trade negotiated trade currency back into the system, even by going to, say, small businesses, or using what small amounts of purchases we can make. Well, sadly, it still funnels back to this hierarchical economic structuring. And we still, in some way, I guess, in terms of being pacifists, comply to a certain degree with law enforcement to not drum up any more issues for many people in terms of the governmental structuring. So, well, my point being, though, I'm not so much, well, I am upset by that. It's not so much the fact that we are all major hypocrites at this point that right now I am infuriated at. It's the lack of major self-awareness from pretty well most majority of people on this planet, especially from the people who claim to realize these societal issues on all sides of the political /political spectrum. It's, it's sad and disappointing. The lack of major self-awareness. And as I've said, I'm guilty of this too. And I'm still talking. But in terms of my ideals of self-maintaining altruism and helping people to some degree to satisfy my own selfish needs for, well, my 5 inherent human desires, just like everyone else, meaning control, understanding, uniqueness, familiarity, and the interactive loneliness and biologic thanatophobia and all the rest. Well, for once, in terms of helping that person, I actually acted upon what is, well, what I feel to be my morality, or what would be in alignment with my moral values. So I did, finally, for once, to what seemed like a major extent. It actually, well, I actually did. You'd think that people would actually be appreciative, actually happy and appreciative of that. Just like the people who were involved with the scenario were. First-hand experience, those people, and as far as I'm concerned, not me manipulating them into being satisfied with my help, just examining at least in how their psychological states worked or were at the moment, well, what they felt was helpful and being grateful for it. Yeah, no, people just don't even want to take into account their first-hand experience with what happened, or what I'm relaying happened. You want to call up the store yourself, go right ahead and Byword Market, Ottawa. It's a small business ideal coffee. Just call the owners up, ask them what happened if you want. And also stop by, and if you're in the Ottawa area, purchase something from there. Support their business. If you can. Go ask if you fucking want. So, yeah. Thankfully, I spoke to another one of my friends later in the night as I was lying by that overpass, looking up at the stars at night, and they agreed with me, and Literally, they agreed with me, especially on the point of how I didn't even diagnose them with anything. I was looking over them and examining them. I was analyzing what was happening and trying to help. I didn't diagnose or prognose them with fucking anything. At all. Like, it shows the complete ignorance that so many people have towards how actual healthcare practice works. Most, I would actually, well, yeah, it's fair to argue, most, well, general ER nurses and ER doctors would have literally just done the same thing I did. They might not, sadly, might not have even been able to determine the cause of the pain for DS. I hope they were. But even if they were, they might not have been able to treat it. For all I know, it's entirely possible, it's highly possible, it could have been psychosomatic pain, like what I deal with. That's another bout of ignorance as well. Oh, sorry, that's my finger. People really like to think they're above what they actually are. And this demonstrates the ignorance to psychology. People actually think that they'd be able to see, like, if they were being psychologically manipulated, if they have no knowledge in psychology, or that they would be able to know if there was something emotionally wrong with them and feel it. No, you won't. Not, at least in terms of the conscious, yeah, you would be able to. The subconscious? Nope, you would not. That is not acute. That is not being readily aware. It's called the unconscious, the subconscious, for a fucking reason. The psychological state. It is part of your consciousness. That is not your emotional state. That is not readily, you are not readily aware of at all times. Sure, you can have a heightened awareness of certain aspects about it, as researchers in the field do, but even they are not completely, at all points of the day, constantly thinking about it. And in terms of psychosomatic pain, there is so much neurological, specifically, pain that is caused by psychological issues. It causes physiological pain. And it is as real as rain. There's a specific neurological, well, pseudo-neurological, psychosomatic disorder called conversion disorder, which is, well, complete neurological disrupt. Loss of motor coordination, paralysis, blindness, slurred speech, pretty well all the symptoms of a stroke, almost, but it's caused by psychological factors. And that's not something that you can readily control unless you are given, well, it can be helped with cognitive behavioral therapy to some degree, and that's really the only treatment for it. Like, you're not going to be aware of these things. And everything is psychological. I'm tired of this idiotic belief. Everything we do is on a psychobiological and just psychological basis. It heads our decisions, it's our emotional state. It heads what we feel, our stresses, our anxieties, our philosophical beliefs are completely controlled by it. Same with our morality and philopsychology. Our societal structuring, psychosociology, our sexual attractions, psychosexology, religious beliefs, all the rest, and you can't escape it. And I hate so much when I hear people say, I give them all these reasons of why they're behaving the way they're behaving, how their mentality is at the moment, or what it seems to be from my analysis, or I could be wrong about it, but what I may feel could be the case, and then they just come back with something, or, maybe they're just a dick. Nope. Complete ignorance right there. No one is just a dick for no reason. It's psychological. Even if I don't know what the psychological reason is, or someone else doesn't, it's still psychological. You just don't know it. And I'm tired of compensating for ignorant bullshit. Remember one of a person who I, view as a good friend of mine, as I spoke about in my 10th part of Exploring Ottawa, when I didn't report the first restaurant business I worked at here. Well, I worked at over in Ottawa when I was living there for improperly cooking food, and why I want to deal with it in a different way, which failed. But I didn't want to report it to the police or to public health because libertarian views at the time, now moving into anarchism, I don't believe in mass amounts of policing and don't anymore believe in any amount of policing. I don't believe it's helpful. It's ultimately too much control over people, I feel. It's, and in a practical sense, a moral practical sense, does not work at all. And they just said, well, it makes you look like a poser for not going with the available resources to help the scenario. Yeah, that's not the available fucking resources. No, it isn't. I just have explained to them, in terms of my belief of intrinsic moral practicality, yeah, that's not a practical means at all. If I did that, I would be condoning the police force. Condoning the actual system that, well, would be used to dismantle or stop the actual thing that's going on. In a sense, endorsing a practical social behavior. Or endorsing a social behavior morally in a practical sense for how human beings should be behaving in terms of control. So, no. And as for that, in terms of your beliefs towards anarchism, it gets really muddled with half the things you say and do, as well as a multitude of other people who claim to be anarchists, or of more rising leftist, or even far leftist ideals. So, as far as I'm concerned, half of you who still just choose to go along with this bullshit, as not even trying to mitigate it as much as possible, or really actually thinking about how much you could really be doing to consume less and go away from this as much as possible, all this, well, you're the actual fucking posers, as far as I'm concerned. You are. I've actually made an effort to go away from this. And actually have made an effort now, actually fully been able to act upon what I felt is half of my morality, and helped someone with the knowledge I have of medical science. So, there's that. It's really fucking stupid. I don't give two single shits that I don't have a medical license. I don't believe in licensing or certification for any kind of, well, systematic training purposes. I put air quotes around that. I believe in first-hand experience and demonstrations in an actual on-hands, well, situation. Know these methods of control, ironically, cause more disruption and ultimately cause less beneficial control over something. You can't control it. I've committed a multitude of minor to moderate felonies over the last, about the last nearly year since I've left Toronto. I've driven on the roads in off-road vehicles for a multitude of months with the golf cart and my UTV for the 2 weeks that I had it, without a license, on the main roads, safely, didn't endanger a single fucking person. Took my motorized bicycle out from Toronto on roads that it legally should not have been on. Police even saw, and there were quite a few police coming up as far as I can recall. One even actually went beside me for a second, and I thought they were going to pull me over, but then the cop literally just said, "Oh, you alright? I mean, it's pretty dark out here. You able to see?" And I was like, "Yep, I'm fine. I'm able to see. I have a light." They're like, "Okay, have a good night. Goodbye." Could be a bit of white privilege there, but Well, they were rural. They were a rural cop, but I don't know. Either way, they just let it go. Oh yeah, and in terms of, well, me recording the, court hearing I sat in on for the, Freedom Convoy for leader Daniel Beaufort of the centrist group Pigale, when that was all going on. Recording it from in my pocket, that was illegal, apparently. Quite illegal. You needed to be registered as a member of the press to actually go and do that. Well, I didn't. So, too bad. That's that. I've slept on private property when I've been out on the streets. When I first left Toronto, slept in a what appeared to be a grazed off cornfield. That was on someone's property. I didn't realize at the time, but it was. So there you go. And I've slept most definitely on private property here in Ottawa. Oh yeah, and I slept on private property in Peterborough, and then the morning was kicked off by staff. So, yeah, done a multitude of illegal things. Oh, and I've, in terms of my beliefs towards nudism and sexual expression, and, sexual freedom to now in an anarchist extent, a large extent, which I'll get into more in a bit. I've been naked in public before, slept naked in my tent for airflow, and I've even done sexual acts away from large crowds in more secluded areas in public, in the woods. So, there's that. And when I become a pornographer, that is exactly what I will be doing. So, and to top it all off, one more thing before I move on from, two more things, I guess, before I move on from this topic and actually get further into Gatineau. Well, in terms of this person who is so much for the regulation of systems, I know you've done a multitude of illegal shit as well. I know you've used substances at a young age that you were not supposed to. So don't even pretend that you're for these regulations. Don't pretend it. Don't. I know you've done illegal shit. Same with other people who claim to be anarchists that I know. You have done a multitude of illegal shit. So, don't even try it. Alright. Let's get moving further up from here. My arms are stiff. Ow. An incredibly nice person just helped me push my cart up to about the entrance to this different bridge in Gatineau without me asking them. And that's the second time that's happened. Someone in the Gloucester district of Ottawa, when I was making my way over to the downtown area, helped me push my cart, again, without being asked, just up a ways to where I was going. And before that, when I was heading out of the Orleans district, a woman and her daughter stopped and actually talked with me for a sec. Well, the mother did. The daughter stayed in the car, and she actually gave me some money that I didn't ask for, and I actually refused at first, but she just said, don't do that. Don't do that pride thing. Just let me give this to you. So I didn't protest any further. And, well, they were very nice people. Now, you might be thinking, well, Cam, doesn't this disprove your theory of globalized social paranoia in some way? Nope. Because as far as I'm concerned, the paranoia manifests mainly in subtle forms, And also a way that I'm going to add into when I further flesh out that theory is that you can prove it by people still having the pro-social will to help others in at least some small fashion, but then halting when it goes to a further extent mainly. So basically, they'll help you to some degree, but then they'll cut it off at a certain point even if you need further assistance, as they're weary. Though, however, I may, and I'm not going to say it right now, I need to analyze and think about it more, I may have been wrong in my implementations of the initial percentile for how much of the world populace is affected by it. It might be slightly less, but only slightly. I don't know, I have to reevaluate that. But it's still widespread, the social paranoia. It's a very beautiful view, but well, let's keep moving along here. So, I'm obviously on my way to downtown district of the city of Gatineau. I don't know what this district is called, that the park I just exited from is in. But once I get down there, I am going to actually head over, if it's open hopefully, to a strip club in the city. No, not to apply this time, because, well, one, I'm probably going to do this beforehand if I can find a place to use the washroom. But two, a lot of strip clubs, even, well, small business, especially small business strip clubs, provide showers of some kind for their performers, or just at the very least their performers, but also the general staff, usually, and locker rooms for their belongings. So, I'm going to try and ask and see if they're fine with it, the owners, if I could just go in and have a shower. And obviously, if there's people using the showers who are performers, I have no problem with that. Obviously, I'm affiliated with sex work and the culture as well. And, well, obviously, I have being a nudist, no problem with any form of nudity in terms of, well, non-sexual or beneficially sexual. So, I'm just going to ask if I could please do so, because thinking of motels to maybe check in for even so much as a night or a little while, a few hours to just clean up. I would really like to try to save on a bit of finance with that, as when I asked about certain maybe sleeping arrangements when I was in the Gloucester district of Ottawa at a small motel, they said it was $140 for, well, singular rooms for a night. So I was like, okay, well, no thank you at the moment. Oh, is that a raven? Oh, hello. Well, if there's trouble, I don't think I'll be calling you. Please, somebody out there get that reference. Anyway, oh yeah, well, I forgot, it occurred to me, I forgot to say this in the last section, where I was going to address two things before I got moving. I only addressed one. I've mentioned now in this video, I guess, well, here and there, And I've edited the description of my channel to, well, not only having self-proclaimed myself as a self-employed medic, but also an analytical neuroscientist. Now, why did I do that? Well, because by all technicalities, all definitions of the word, that is what I am now. That is literally what I am. I analyze the sociological environments and the psychological, process of human beings and their neurological processes in affiliation to neurophysiology and the rest of their bodies, how we interact socially, and in philosophical essence, how it all relates to our collective existence and axiological worth and all the rest. So by every definition, and with me now having proposed the theories that I have and the implementations, that is absolutely 100% what I am now in terms of research and what I enact and engage with. That's what I am, by every form of technicality, a neuroscientist, and an analyst neuroscientist. So, there's that. Let me keep pulling this. Also, one more thing that I just want to get off my chest right now. If people really do start actually looking at my theories, taking what I have said seriously, and actually thinking about them for themselves, and they actually agree with what I have said, or differ in some way, but at the very least agree with the prime essence of it. Then, well, good. But I swear to Christ, if I hear anyone, especially in relation to my theory of purposely stupefied systemic education for elitist authority, if I hear a single freaking person, if I hear a single person say to me, wow, these are some incredible theories, especially this one. You should really teach a course at post-secondary schooling, university or college or high school even, secondary. Or you should go to post-secondary to actually talk about, these topics. I'm going to be so internally mad and disappointed. My God, if you say that to me, you did not listen to a single word I have said about those theories. You didn't actually listen to the theories themselves, especially purposely stupefied systemic education. You did not actually take in what I said, or you completely misinterpreted it. You did not actually understand the bulk of what I was trying to get across with that. How education systems, predominantly throughout history and in the modern day, have been utilized for authoritarian political control for the elites of societies to keep the mass populaces stupid and dumb, ignorant towards actual beneficial social knowledge, to make them complacent laborers to any institutions that they will be going into after their education, and most of all, to keep the populace stupid and unaware of manipulation tactics and the psychological disorders, predominantly egocentrism, egotistical personality disorder, and psychopathy, lack of empathy, and remorse and guilt that the highly influential political elites of the world, well, have. And whether they know they have it and just obviously don't care, or they know that in terms of psychological science, that those textbook diagnoses vaguely sound like what they, well, either vaguely or completely sound like what they do in blatant or subtle forms. Well, just what they do. They know that it reflects them and their, well, presentation of behavior. So, if anyone says that to me by this point, I'm not going to hear it. I'm not going to. That's dismissive of me. But you know what? Well, I'm not going to say anything because I'm trying to remain stoic. I know why people believe these things. Indoctrination, well, their own self-centered intents. All of it is psychological disorder. But, well, I'll be very disappointed. I will. I've said before that I've hated the schooling systems of most of the world. That was one of the prime reasons I dropped out of high school in 12th grade. Only 3 months till my graduation. Well, there you go. That's the answer to that. And I really hope that people just don't, and I'll say that to me if they actually bother to look at my theories. Also, I don't want to hear, like, you should write a book, or you should make a documentary about this. Technically already have, like, videos, or you should hold a, well, I don't know, start a counter-revolution cause for, I guess, violent uprising, I don't know. Even though I've said in my theory of the unempathic, unsympathetic cycle of conflict, how that is terrible and that fuels the continuing cycle of it, of oppression. Thistle. Oh, I will be very, very, very sick of it. I should not, and I've said this before, I should not have to go to school, to an institution. I should not have to write a book. I should not have to speak in bold, confident, assertive, overly assertive, authoritative tones and make this big hullabaloo for you to actually take me seriously. I bloody well shouldn't have to. You should actually just have the moral decency, as far as I'm concerned, or the moral ideals, to just actually listen to someone and actually take them seriously with what they have to say, no matter how they present themselves, even if it's because of psychological disorder or not, even if they have a mental personality or behavioral disorder, whatever else, listen still to their points. It's just, well, it's stupid. Okay. That was that little rant. I think I'm getting close to down to, yeah, it looks to be one of the main strips of the city that I saw on the map. And the club, which is called, I believe, Le Club Pigale. I don't know what that translates to. But, well, it should be right down there. Okay. Let's keep heading that way. If I once again tried to stop the footage and I missed, my finger missed it. So if I'm looking on the map correctly, this district is called Promendaz, or the Promenades district, Gatineau. And from my initial observations of it, this area at least is highly underfunded. There's a lot of crumbling infrastructure. It seems to be ranging in terms of, well, what appears to be wealth and income between, well, impoverished and lower middle class. So it's, well, again, very sad, very depressing. But there's very unique and very it's interesting looking small businesses. And, well, I'm already noticing gentrification, because of course. But this is the main road strip that runs straight down through into the downtown area of Gatineau. And if I'm not mistaken, Club, as it's spread on the map, Club Pigale should be right off to this, if I can ever point my camera in the correct direction, if my hair will ever get out of my eyes, because goddamn, if I'm not mistaken, it should be right on the, well, the right side here, just up a few, maybe one or two lights down. But yeah, thankfully it's getting to be a lot warmer, a lot brighter right now. But okay, get up further and see about, well, if I can negotiate with the owners of the club, and also see if they even have showers available. And we're here. Le Pigale Cabaret. This is the strip club. It's, well, exterior-wise, just like a lot of the area, or most of this district. Infrastructurally, the actual structuring of the building is not the best, at least from what I can see, but, well, not going to judge what's inside based on that. And it's no, this is an intersection, but the closest one I guess would be that one down there. That Lower Funny, I didn't fully take in what it was, but oh, there's actually a motel right across. And of course, well, I think you know my thoughts towards most of the mega corporations that are along this road. Wow, that's a really old sign. Actually, yeah, that's a really old Burger King sign. Unless they updated it and I just haven't been bothering to pay attention to their, well, signage in recent years. But, oh, anyway. I'm going to attempt to go in and see if I can brush up just on hygiene. Okay, and also probably charge my devices, or my device, my phone, and my portable charger. Whatever. I'll get back to you when I can.
When did your license come on? This is what I told on my neighbors. And he said, yeah, That way, when they fly their idol, it's yeah, left the big video, so you can like go home and plug the fucking well, this morning, yesterday, we went to the restaurant, so we came back a little bit late, like 11:30 maybe. So we didn't have all this time. Well, we did again, sometimes with the fire we don't do it here. And we plug it like all day yesterday, and I'm like, just unplug it, the fridge will be ouais, sinon ça change tout le temps, ça devrait être la peine. Non,
There you go, that was a
I'll go back. Everything. I'll be back down there. Let's just get wrong. When did he leave? I don't know. About 50 ago. Like, probably about 50 ago. He's done though. He's done though. Let's go. I just got a couple stats. I don't know what else to do.
C'est long. Les ménages, j'ai déjà fait, j'ai plus rien à faire. Okay, now you're admitting that you're drunk. Actually, we gotta have. Really?
Please welcome Paris.
Usually I fuck a wish.
You want to go or you want to wait? You want to wait? Oh yeah, we literally just like it. I'm here for a minute. Yeah, I've seen a couple of there's too many. Okay, I was like, yeah, such a cute day. It was. Alright, have a good. I'll see you next time. Oh, are you? Oh, no, I don't want to do that. I'll let you come back. Okay, for sure. So, I'm down for sure. What's your name? Yeah, nice to meet you. Yeah, it's my birthday today. So, last night I like cried on my birthday. That that's why I was crying. I was like, yeah, oh, you were here? Oh no, but yeah, because no one knew it was my birthday. Because also and I've been saying it's my birthday on Friday, and then now I'm gonna actually, kind of people were like there, he thought like we were passing, and then half of them were like, he's been announcing it, and it's like finally got told. It's my own fault. I learned this year not to mention my birthday till day before. You know? It is. You get it. Oh my god, but a lot of old guys don't get it. Right? But a lot of old guys don't get it. They're like, no, you're young. Come on. You're like, what, 30? I'm 23 now, so I'm supposed to be 5 years after. I know. The math is mathing for me. I don't like it though. That's not mathing. Right? Hey Alex. Are you with me? Are we going together? Yeah, we're just gonna try. I'm going out tonight. Yeah, I'm going out tonight with my friends, so I'm like, I don't need a nap before I go out. I did not plan on getting they're surprising me. I don't even know yet. I wish you were What if she's why wasn't here? I think she could be downstairs right now. Why don't we go to say oh yeah, okay. So I grew up outside of Ottawa. I'm living in Windsor the past my drinking age. So like
that was eventful. So if you read my editing to, well, this video, the section of me being in the club, the parts that I recorded of it from within my pocket, and cut because it was getting, I figured it was far too long. Well, they didn't have showers there. The owner told me when I spoke to them that they used to, but they renovated and remodeled the place and turned it into an office, or the area that had the showering station. So, oh well. As of right now, I've gone to 2 motels. The one that was right across from from Club Pigale, or Pigale, one of the 2. But they were booked up, and I didn't want to sleep there. I just asked if I could just solely get a room quick to use the shower, and then I'll leave. But they were full, and I went outside this motel, just down the block, and they're also full. So, but it was a rather enjoyable night. That marks my first actual, I guess I'll say, my first genuine strip club experience, as all the times in Ottawa I only went in for business inquiries of possibly obtaining a job as a performer or a cook or a janitor or whatever else. And when I was living in Toronto, the only time that I actually stopped into, well, the 2 most famous strip clubs in Toronto, Club Zanzibar and the Filmman's Gentlemen's Club, I think was the other one's name. I was on a bike ride downtown in the freezing cold of December. Actually, was I on my bike? I was either on my bike or I was walking, or like I had gone on the train, the GO train, and then went down there. And I had initially gone there just to actually interview, well, the strippers or anyone there, just to learn more about the experience, because that's when I was initially trying to prepare for becoming a pornographer, but then everything else happened. But anyway, that's a different story. But so, and obviously at the time I was 18 years old, and those clubs only allowed over 19. So I couldn't go in anyway. But this one, I went in, they have completely lax security because nobody was at the doors to like check ages. Oh well. I don't even think that can be regulated, as you know, now anarchist, so okay. And I just sat in there and sat at the booth, listened to the music, watched the performances. I spoke to 2 performers. They were asking if I wanted to dance, and I was saying, well, maybe in a bit. I was potentially thinking about it, but I talked to one of them, the first one who approached me, and well, they actually asked how I was doing, and I told them, well, how I got here, because they asked where I was initially coming from, and I didn't. Well, I gave like the gist of. I gave the synopsis of me being in Ottawa, nothing really more than that, of over the last summer in Peterborough and Crow's Landing, and then leaving Toronto and all that jazz. But it was an incredibly well-run club, as far as I can tell. The owner was incredibly friendly, incredibly nice. And the only reason I recorded from within my pocket was because of the atmosphere. After sitting in it for a bit, I'm gonna upload it because I actually want people to get an understanding. I know I didn't obviously pull out my phone because I was a bit weary too. But I want people to actually listen and just hear a bit through the blaring music of like the genuine... the place had a genuine sense of community. It really did. Everyone was incredibly respectful. Everyone was... well, many people were chatting. Some were, I guess, being a little vocally rambunctious, but that's about it. The performances, as far as I'm concerned, were very sensual. Very, very beautiful. Especially one performer who was wearing this very cute fishnet, I don't know what, I guess you'd call it a jumpsuit. Well, not really a jumpsuit, because it was more of like a fishnet dress, I guess I'll call it. And they were incredibly graceful when moving, incredibly smooth, and incredibly fast. And they were incredibly flexible. They had to have very good, well, core muscular strength to be able to propel themselves the way they did. And as well as I was especially very impressed by the fact that the DJ, I don't know if you can hear it on the recordings or what I got of it, they were incredibly very respectful to the performers. They weren't genuinely trying to objectify them, or they weren't over-exotifying them or over-fetishizing them for the purpose of selling, as if they were selling a product or trying to make a profit. They were just saying, and here comes the next performer doing this. And that was it. And that was actually incredibly refreshing to see, because even clubs in, say, in Ottawa, like the Newton or the Playmates, when I went inside, and also the Barfax Gentlemen's Club in Byward Market, sadly I cannot say the same for, because, well, yeah, they were trying to in some way drum up their performers, like, well, abilities, and also the eroticism of, well, the event for, well, marketing, which I morally have issues with. But I was very impressed at this club that the DJ was incredibly respectful and actually didn't do that. At least as far from my opinion, they didn't do that at all. And everyone was genuinely very welcoming, very nice. And all the customers, I noticed whenever people were going back into the back rooms for lap dances, when they came out, they were incredibly respectful. In fact, many of them, who might have been regulars there, the performers gave them a hug and a kiss, and they just went off. And the server person who was up at the front, they actually said to one of them, okay, whoever, see you next week. And also some of the customers, when they were coming in, again, I'm assuming regulars, because, well, how else would they know them unless they have work affiliations there? Well, they hugged some of them, kissed them, and they were like, hey, how are you doing? It's been a while. So, that was incredibly nice to see. Again, can't say the same for the clubs that I went to in Ottawa. But for that one, for sure. So, stroke of wholesomeness in the stereotypically, or the stigmatized, slutty, filthy work environment here in Gatineau. Oh yes, and also in terms of my first genuine strip club experience, tonight was the first night that I got a lap dance. And it was nice, but somewhat awkward to say the least. That was mainly on my part, I would say. Because, well, one of the performers, after a while, I was just sitting at one of the tables. They approached me and they asked, hey, how are you doing? How's your night? And I said, oh, it's going well. It's going fine. How's yours? And we got to talking. And they asked, would you be interested in a dance? And I didn't... Okay. I guess I was somewhat in my own head. I didn't want to be rude. I didn't. Because I didn't turn down the other two performers spoke to me, but I just wasn't, well, I wasn't thinking about it at that time. I also, while I was sitting in there, well, I was reading over some of my diagrams. I pulled them out from my backpack and just looking over them and reviewing them. Looking back on it, I think I looked very out of place compared to everyone else. Mainly because I was also one of the only people jiving a bit to the music. Except for that one song, which I think I'll edit in, that very highly misogynistic, sexist song. It was very, very just incredibly sexist lyrics. I was not vibing near as much to that one. No, not even close. But so they asked me, would you like a dance? And I just said, okay, why not? Sure. Now, this, I regret this now, because this conflates with my morals. This person was very much older than me. But I could guess, well, after the dance was done, they genuinely were trying to be very, well, endearing with it. It was genuinely very nice. But it felt a little bit emotionally forced. And I'm not trying to insult them with that in any way. Again, I should have just said, oh, no, thank you, and actually waited to see if someone around closer to my age actually, well, approached me. Because I don't think I would have asked any of the dancers for a dance. But, well, we did, and yeah, all I can say, it was nice, but it was awkward. They asked me at the end of it, how old are you? And I said 19. And they said, oh, nice. And they sounded a bit winced when said that, and I said, and how about you? And they responded back with, oh, a little bit older than you. By a little bit older, if you mean like mid to late 30s, yeah, that's a bit more than a little. So again, I should have just, well, morally I have an issue with that, but I just didn't want to be rude at that moment. And I didn't know what to do. And I wanted to, I guess, gain some experience from that. Now I have. And I regret it. Don't regret just having a lap dance, obviously not. Again, it was nice enough. I just wish that it had been with someone my age, closer to my age, because I don't believe it's healthy to engage in sexual relationships beyond about 2 years of your age or a little more when you're in adolescent stages, because that can be very detrimental to your physiological sexual development. Not entirely psychological, no, but your physiological health development. I'll actually talk more about that before I sign off on this. And once I actually get to a park that's a few subdivisions down off of the main road strip here, so that I could, excuse me, sleep in it. Well, all I can say is it was an interesting experience. And stay in. I'm trying to charge my phone as I'm recording this. Well, yeah, it was very interesting. I greatly enjoyed watching the sexual performances on stage. They were very beautiful and very well coordinated. And yeah, the club, other than obviously, well, the capitalist system it operates in, and it, unfortunately, as everyone does, abides to, well, it was still nice. least in my opinion. Okay, I am actually going to edit down that whole bit of footage. If I can find a place that has free Wi-Fi, I'm sure there is. Yeah, that's all I can think to say right now. So, first genuine strip club experience. Would have hoped they had showers that I could have used, but, well, maybe tomorrow I can find one of these motels will have a room open earlier in the morning. Or there's actually another strip club in the city that I believe is called Bar 77. That's towards, in the downtown area, but towards the eastern end of it. Maybe they have showers. Or maybe a better option before I actually walk all the way down there, even though I want to explore it before I leave. Well, maybe I should actually call first to ask. So, yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's it. Alright. I found, oh, you can't even see it in the dark, but I found this lovely little concrete skate park. On the western end of the Promendez district. I believe that's how you pronounce the name of the district. And I'm going to sleep here for tonight. I was gonna say more about some other stuff, but no, I'm too tired tonight. I will save it for tomorrow. I will, though, just finish off by stating, yeah, reflecting on it even more, I really regret, well, taking that lap dance with that older performer. It felt, again, sensualistically, they were trying. They were. It was my fault for even accepting. But it was very uncomfortable. Very awkward, very uncomfortable. But again, it's not a fault entirely on their part, obviously. As I said, they were trying to actually genuinely make it enjoyable. And I also put in the effort to enjoy it, both of us together. But it just ended up being a mess. Next time that happens, if I'm in any sort of club or sexual setting, I'm going to say, if a performer offers me a dance, and they're far older than me, I'm just going to say, sorry, nothing against you. It's just I'm far more comfortable being intimate with someone my own age. As aligning with my ethics. So, yeah. Oh well. That's another regret for the books. But again, the club itself, though, fantastic in terms of community aspect. I don't know about the wages. I know that most of, from the tipping of performers, same laws similar to waitresses and waiters, allowing for corporations to pay half their salaries back through tips instead of full minimum wage to an extent. So, yeah. But, yeah, I have nothing more to say to that. I don't know. I'm tired right now. Oh, but the club also, I ordered poutine there, and god damn it. That club's poutine, the chef, was amazing. It was a one-person kitchen. They were operating entirely by themselves. Or by themselves. Sorry, no, plural. And it was the best poutine I have ever had to date. Like, damn, it was delicious. And I'll also just end off with saying, God, I really am just blown away by I really am blown away by the stupidity of people. I really fucking am. I did something that genuinely helped a person in dire need that professionals in the train field that were designed to help someone in that circumstance, they thanked me for my help. Appreciated it profusely. And I still get talked to as if I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I've demonstrated it multiple times, just with research alone, and now with actual first-hand experience as well, in more larger depths than just self-taught on myself for injuries that I've sustained, or my own chronic health issues. So, it's, it's ludicrous. It especially pisses me off so much. That conversation kicked off. All I texted them was, I just assessed my first patient today. And then they immediately responded back, Cam, you're gonna get someone killed. And then I went and said, excuse me. They said, you're not a doctor. And then the whole conversation kicked off. They didn't even get the full scope in the slightest of my explanation as to what happened. They just immediately said, Cam, you're gonna kill someone. They knew nothing. Dick all they knew what happened. No explanation. Just assumption, with no actual information to go off of. Dickhead. Yeah, I have no words for that. Just moronic dickhead. Reactionary moronic dickhead. I don't know if this person was drunk or high, or if they were just having a very, very, well, miserable day. And they're, dismissive behavioral tendencies and, well, narcissistic and egotistical aspects started to show through. I don't know. Well, I hope you're feeling better. I hope you actually learned something from that conversation. Fucking hell. And I'm not, once again, I'm not letting that incident destroy my, what very much is still my relentless optimism and idealism. No way. Even though they're smashed in the smallest of ways every day, and my morals seem to die in the smallest of ways every day, through means that I would have never fully suspected. Well, yeah, I'm not letting scenarios like that. I hope people know is what turns people to the philosophies of pessimism and cynicism, and, well, also misanthropy and pessimistic nihilism. I'm an optimistic nihilist. Well, I won't let that happen. I'm not gonna be a person who just psychologically gives up on life. I believe we are all hypocrites to a major extent, and that's a byproduct of this world. It's not entirely our nature. I know I propose the theory of the paradox of existence, but even so, that I should have clarified, which I'll talk about in another video. I've categorized, in terms of contradictions of life, things into naturally occurring double standards and manufactured double standards that are unnecessary. So I'll talk about that more in a different video. I'm not gonna pull, even though I quoted him in my, well, subconscious optimism theory. I'm not gonna pull a George Carlin and be like, yeah, we're all hypocrites, and I'm no better, so just live with it. Just be with how it is right now. Just do whatever. No, not at all. That does not make anything beneficial out of any of it. I'm just simply proclaiming we're all massive hypocrites. It causes so much detriment, and I have no answer to it. If anything beneficial can come of that to a major extent, I have no clue. So, that's that. That's where it stands. That's where it is. I'm not going to become some bitter, jaded, fucking idiot elder who just, well, has given up and become problematically pragmatic. With my theory of intrinsic moral practicality, I technically am a pragmatist. Some way. But, well, you know what I fucking mean. I sincerely mean this, I will kill myself before I become a pessimist, before I become a cynic, before I become a hedonist, before I become a misanthropist. I will off myself before that ever happens. And if I come to the conclusion that's the only way that humanity is going towards in terms of world outlooks, and if there is no real beneficial way back from those, outlooks, then I will become severely depressed again. I will be very disappointed in humanity and the world. I will not believe it's human nature, because it's not, in any means. It's psychological damage. Those philosophies are psychological damage, as far as I'm concerned. But I will commit suicide if I ever find that to be the case. But only time will tell for that. And I have many more years of traveling before I fully determine that. At least how it's looking right now. And if I die while traveling before that, then that was that. That was my life. So. I am going to set up the tent and my sleeping bags and get cozied up for the night. And continue on to the downtown area of Gatineau in the morning after uploading this video and editing it. And hopefully I can get a shower at a motel or maybe even gym tomorrow. Or if that other strip club has any available showers, maybe they'll let me bathe in there. Either that, or I just go knocking on people's apartment doors and asking, could I please have a shower quickly? That could further test my theory of globalized social paranoia, which absolutely exists. That we would just see the further extent of it. As you saw probably in a clip before this, the moon's out very bright tonight. It's bright over the city. Apparently during certain times during the winter, over the Ottawa-Gatineau region, you can actually see the faintest glow of the northern lights. That actually happened this year, apparently. I didn't see them, but apparently it just happened. I heard